Shalom, everyone, and welcome back to Hanukkah Hotties with JQT Vancouver and Tribe 12. My name is Carmel Tanaka, and I'm the founder and executive director of JQT Vancouver, a Jewish, queer, and trans nonprofit dedicated to queering Jewish space and queering or Jewifying. And Sabletooth. For Hanukkah this year, we have the honor of partnering with Tribe 12, a Jewish nonprofit whose LGBTQIA+ programming is for anyone who wants to explore the intersection of the Lenape people, specifically of the Turtle Clan. If you do not know the land on which you live, work, and play, check out native-land.ca. For each day of the holiday, we have a Hanukkah Hottie joining us to light their Hanukkah or perhaps share another tradition and chit chat about the wonderful things they do in life for the duration of the candles burning. For Candle 7, we're very lucky to have Nate Looney, an American Jewish University alum, agricultural entrepreneur, diversity strategist, and U.S. Army veteran. Nate joined the U.S. Army National Guard in 2003. I was part of the rescue efforts during Hurricane Katrina in 2005 and employed to Iraq in 2008. In 2015, he graduated with his BA in business from American Jewish University. He is a Jeremiah Fellow and a Bend the Arc Selah JOC Cohort alum and is passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Nate is currently the manager of racial justice initiatives at Avodah and speaks publicly about intersectionality and diversity across multiple sectors. In Nate's free time, he can be found working on his agricultural startup, Phoenix Farms, building JOC community, or hanging out at the beach. You can find out more information at avodah.net or Westside URBS. Hello, hi.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for joining us from sunny California.
Yes, so it's so sunny out here that I actually have the heater on because it's only 65 degrees Fahrenheit indoors.
I mean, you can complain all you want, but north of the borders, I think it's a little chillier than it is in LA.
Yeah.
How about we start lighting your Hanukkah?
Absolutely. So I'll say the blessings and light the Hanukkah, and I'll say the Hebrew and then also do a English translation. And I invite anyone else that would like to light along with us to join us in this. So. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh.
Amen.
Amen. And then for folks in the English, blessed are you, Hashem, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and has commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. And blessed are you, Hashem, ruler of the universe, who has wrought miracles for our forefathers and in those days and at this season. So may we all bring in light.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for leading us. So speaking of Hanukkah, What does Hanukkah mean to you as a Jew of color?
You know, Hanukkah means a lot of things to me as a Jew of color, and it's something that's ever evolving. Um, you know, pre-COVID time, Hanukkah for me is about having my house spilling out with JOCs. I love hosting parties, and Hanukkah is one of my favorite times to host people. And you know, Hanukkah is about oil and the miracle of oil. So, you know, we most folks make latkes and sufganiyot, you know, the fried donuts. But for me, you know, I'm African American, Black man through and through. It's all about fried chicken and waffles, parv waffles. So
yes, I know where I'm coming next year for Hanukkah.
and so like it started just with fried chicken and waffles, and then it evolved into like fried chicken and waffles and schnitzel and you know, like Korean spiced fried chicken, and like
Yes.
it's like cook-offs between different JOCs, or like who does the best fried chicken.
So wait, who won?
You know, it was a toss-up between the Korean fried chicken and my home style fried chicken the last time.
Okay, I was gonna say K fried chicken is the best of the best.
Yeah. That has been like the common thread. I think this year has been a little bit different with the pandemic, in that, like, you know, it's required finding new ways to lean into light. But I still had schnitzel yesterday. You know, as long as there's tons of seasoning in whatever I'm eating, then it's right in line. Tons of seasoning and tons of oil.
That's great. Is there anything else that you would like to share about Hanukkah?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think specifically this year, because there's been so much heaviness, you know, between, you know, the COVID-19 and everything that has happened around that. And then also everything that happened this summer with the racial justice uprisings. There's just been so much heaviness, and darkness, not in, I mean, there's different ways to view darkness, but there's been, you know, sadness. And this year in particular, I've been thinking about, you know, what does it mean to bring light and joy? And what is the miracle that comes from the light and joy that we can bring around Hanukkah? And the other side of it is, with light, there comes visibility. And so what does it mean in this time period when we're all stuck in our houses, stuck, you know, on camera? What does it mean to still be visible in the world? And you know, for me, that's, you know, showing up as Black, trans, queer, and all, as a veteran, and all of these different things, and leaning into all of those parts that bring me joy, and how it's a joyful thing to be, living in your authentic self. You know, as a Jew of color, it's beautiful to be able to participate in a holiday like this and claim what it means, you know, as a person of color, to find joy in a time period when people are leaning so much to the parts that aren't joyful. You know, it's about the laughter and finding those unique moments of being with family. You know, for me, it's, you know, playing Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song at least one time at full capacity, and like having my whole building shaking, you know, like it's a multitude of things. But this year in particular, I think I've really tried to focus on, like, what are the internal things that bring me joy, and how can I bring that light out into the world?
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you so much, Nate, for sharing. You know, being visible is, it's a real thing. And just our call right now, just having two JOCs, two queer JOCs, bring some light during this time. So I just think having this call alone is already doing miracles at this time for us. And yeah, I'm just like envisioning you with a boombox heading down, like starting down the beach of Los Angeles, and you know, having Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song going. And we actually have two new songs which are incredible.
Yep, the puppy song.
The puppy Hanukkah song, and a really awesome, beautiful, super jazzy, smooth Mount Sur. So I feel like times are getting better.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm a little disappointed. I purchased a Hanukkah onesie this year, and it hasn't arrived yet, so I'm a little disappointed.
No.
I would have worn the Hanukkah onesie, because it's just, why not?
I mean, there's always next year, so save it, or
Yeah.
it could be for any day of the year.
Any day of the year.
I know that you have a lovely
Preparation for today, I was just kind of thinking of like, what is it that I would want to share with folks? And I was looking for some inspiration, and a fellow JOC had posted something about a zine that came out. I'm not even sure exactly when it came out, but I'll tell you the origin of how long I've had it. When I first started my transition in 2011 or 12, I was looking for resources that spoke, from the Jewish perspective. And just doing the Google searches back then, I came across this zine called Timtum. And I can clearly remember sitting in my apartment with, because when you print it, the pages don't exactly line up properly. And I remember like having like this 60 pages like spread out all across my apartment, trying to put the pages, like after I'd cut them in half, putting them in together to make them a zine. So it was a really nice walk down memory lane when I was reminded that I still had this. And so I just kind of opened it up to see like, well, what did folks have to say about Hanukkah? And there happens to be an interesting story in here from someone that contributed to it about their experience around Hanukkah and visibility. And it comes from the standpoint of someone that is Ashkenazi, whose family, is still dealing with the trauma of being in Germany. And from it, like it talks about how this person, they're used to being around Christmas, and they're seeing all these Christmas celebrations and different decorations, and they're like, well, we're Jewish, so maybe we should do something for Hanukkah. And it talks about a little bit of that interchange. So what I want to do is just share a little bit of that, and then sort of talk about like where from this story where we are now, and how we can take this forward into sharing light. So I'm just going to share a little excerpt from this. I was very young. It was around Hanukkah time, Christmas for seemingly the rest of the world. Of course, being a younger version of my glamorous art fag that I am now, I was insanely jealous of all the lights and decorations on all the other houses. It was art. And decorations on, and it wasn't allowed to be, and I wasn't allowed to be part of it. My parents weren't showing us any of the beautiful and creative Jewish traditions that would have made this time feel more like an absence of Christmas. So I talked my younger brother into putting up Hanukkah decorations. There were messy little kid drawings on construction paper taped to the windows of our house. No one could decipher them from the street. Then my mother came in. She saw what we had done and immediately and deep. It was in that moment that we were being taught something, that this is not what we do. We do not announce our Jewishness to the world. We do not show it to each other. And so I want to share that in particular. It's a full essay, but I want to share that in particular because they go on to talk about passing. And in talking about passing, they say, I'm thinking about the term passing. As a Jew, it means assimilation. Passing always means being accepted into a more dominant group, white, Christian, non-trans, etc. And they go on to say, I don't want to pass with all of these implications. I don't want to be seen and recognized as something other than who I already am and as what I'm naturally meant to be. And so I think about this concept of passing, because when we think about passing, it's like you're doing something, you're hiding something. It's not quite who you are. And I think about that in the terms of Hanukkah. And if I'm thinking about bringing light into things, what does it mean to shine light on our whole selves? and not, it's not about passing, it's about just being visible as who you are. And this story struck me in particular because it talks about assimilation, and as a Jew of color, oftentimes we sort of end up getting pigeonholed into how we are supposed to observe different holidays. And the same thing, like I said at the beginning, you know, the idea that we have latkes and sufganiyot, well, why not fried chicken? So what does it mean to not assimilate within our own Jewish identity and shine light on the diversity of what it means for us to be Jews, and bring all of ourselves into that view. So that's just the one little thing that I want to share with you all. And I highly recommend, timtum.org, timtum.org is where you can find this. I highly recommend that if you're able to, that you download this. There's so much fantastic reading in this. That's my gift to share with you all today.
Oh, it's a beautiful Hanukkah gift, and I'm sure everyone's just racing to find out where they can get it. Really, really resonates. Thank you so much. Something that I saw on my news feed today on Facebook was a very important announcement happening in New York City with your organization, Avodah. So I thought maybe you could share with us the exciting news and also a little bit more about what you do at Avodah.
Yes, this has been a year long in the making, this project that we have. So at Avodah, we have something called the Service Corps, the Jewish Service Corps, for Jewish social justice minded folks between the ages of 21 to 26. And within it, we have 5 different cities where you can serve and live in a communal house. New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, New Orleans, and then we're opening up San Diego this year. But within that, it's predominantly Ashkenazi, white identified folks. And as somebody that's been exposed to the historically Black college and university environment, when I was brought on to do recruitment, I looked at this and I said, well, what does it look like to create an opportunity for Jews of color to sort of have an incubator space within this program? Because, you know, when I've noticed that sometimes for myself personally, when I'm in predominantly white spaces, there's a tendency to sort of mute myself. You know, I might not laugh as loud as I laugh. And anyone that's really heard me laugh, you hear me a mile away when I'm laughing. You know, there's a tendency to not just show up as your full self. And so what we thought was, what does it look like to create a space where people can not only be their full selves, but then in times of challenges, like what we saw this summer, to be in a space where you can process that separately than being the teacher. You know, oftentimes when we are in spaces with our allies, we become, as JOCs, we become the teachers where we have to teach about what's going on instead of focusing on processing for ourselves. And so we decided, what does it look like to create a space that not only lets people grow as Jews of color, sort of creates an incubator space for them to grow as a leader, and then on top of that, creates a bigger, broader network for Jews of color to exist in the broader community. So the JOC Bite is going to be located in New York City. It's going to be a house.
I'm so jelly. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I wish I had this when I was ages 21 to 26.
Right. Same thing I said. And so, you know, 21 to 26, living in a communal house in New York City, working at a local nonprofit, receiving a stipend. The house is kosher. The folks within the house set up a kosher kitchen, and then you get to explore as a unit what observance looks like for everyone. So you can try on Shabbat if you've never done Shabbat before, or you can try on being kosher if you've never been kosher before. But it gives you the space. Social justice and anti-poverty work in the future. So I'm super excited about this and really grateful that we've launched the application process. Priority applications are due by January 28th, and it's a fantastic program.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. And I saw it and I immediately was screaming and from joy. And yeah, it's very exciting. And I know that you have to go on to a call to talk about just that exactly at 5. So for those tuning in, We said a little bit in the bio about Nate and his green thumb, loving to garden and do a lot of awesome techniques, hydroponic gardening, for example. So we do have a little bit of a giveaway. And I'm going to let Nate explain what this giveaway is. And there will be a skill testing trivia question afterwards. So why don't you take it away, Nate, and tell us what your giveaway is.
Absolutely. So this is kind of a treat. I don't do this sort of thing often, but what I want to offer for this community, because y'all are like family, even though I can't see you. What I do on the outside of my racial justice work is in agriculture, specifically controlled environment agriculture. So that's hydroponics. Is a 1 hour session with me to either go over or do a one-on-one private lesson on how to set up an aquaponic system or a hydroponic system. We can talk about the plants that you have growing and how to make them grow better. Or if you haven't set anything up and want to set something up, we can spend that time talking about what is the best thing for you to set up, what are the best crops for you to grow. And we can spend that hour doing that, or talking, like I said, talking about what you have currently growing. And I'm very happy to share that with you all.
Oh, that is such a generous offer, and I would definitely take you up on it. So for those who want to answer this question and get in on that giveaway, so the first person to answer this trivia question correctly, the question is, this Jewish gender fluid drag queen rose to fame after winning the 9th season of RuPaul's Drag Race in 2017 under which stage name? I'm going to repeat this question. This Jewish gender fluid drag queen rose to fame after winning the 9th season of RuPaul's Drag Race in 2017 under which name? Do comment in the chat and our moderator will get back to you. And also has, I just see, listed the question in there as well. So to conclude, Nate, I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, how do you queer Jewish space and Jewify queer space?
I love that question. So the question is, how do you queerify Jewish space? And then the other part of it is,
how do you Jewify queer space?
How do you Jewify queer space? I think sometimes I Jewify queer space by default. Just because I tend to, that's just how I move through things. And I think that for both sides of that question, it's about showing up authentically as your full self in both spaces. Oftentimes there's a tendency to mute parts of yourself in order to fit into certain spaces. And that takes a lot of work. That's exhausting. And if you intersect multiple identities, it becomes even more challenging. So the way I like to approach it is like showing up in these spaces as my full self in each space. Like each part of me might not gel with everyone and might not fit perfectly. But you know, for example, as a US Army veteran, there's a certain way that we view veterans. Veterans in queer spaces is something that creates a little bit of tension. But what does it mean to show up in a queer space as a veteran? And then on top of that, bringing my veteran identity with my Jewish identity at the same time, both of those can potentially be in conflict. But what does it mean to like integrate all parts of myself in how I move through the world? And I think that that's probably the biggest way that I focus on queerifying the spaces that I'm in. It's changing people's opinion or their ideas of what it means to be queer in any of these spaces. It's showing that there is no one right way for us to exist.
Amen.
And I think that goes the same. That's the same thing for Jewish spaces. When you're queerifying Jewish spaces, is showing up as your authentic self is what's most important. To just change the way people perceive how we are or what we are. And see the wholeness and the beauty of what it means to bring your whole self to a community.
Yeah, that's definitely something that it took me a long time to be able to come fully as all of my identities. I never say I'm half Japanese or half Jewish anymore, because that to me doesn't make any sense. I'm all these things. And I come with all of this into spaces now, and that has been such a joy for me.
Yeah,
so our last question
Mm-hmm.
for you, Nate, is how do you personally celebrate being Jewish and a queer JOC these days?
Oh, this is a good question. So how do I personally celebrate being tend to on Shabbat, instead of using salt, I use Tony Chachere's. So folks in the South know Tony Chachere's, or I use seasoning salt like Lowry seasoning salt. Both have textures.
I love it.
And the reason I do that is because the whole purpose of using salt is to commemorate tears. In such a joyous moment, you want to commemorate tears. And I started using seasoning salt in that moment because I was like, even my tears are dynamic. There is not one side to how I grieve or what has pained me in my life because of my intersecting identities. So when I go into Shabbat, I'm doing motzi, I want to incorporate that and that diversity of my identity. And as a Black Jew, I like flavor. So I want to incorporate that in everything that I do. So I think in particular, that tends to be the one thing that I hold on to is having flavor in everything that I do.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to do Shabbos with you in a post-COVID world. I got to celebrate Pride with you in LA. Got to do Hanukkah with you for that fried chicken. I mean, there's a lot of things we got to do.
Yep.
And I can't wait till that happens. I'll visit you. I'll visit Aria.
Yep.
Los Angeles is going to be a lot of fun. Many thanks to you, Nate, for joining us for Candle 7 of Hanukkah Hotties with J Cutie Vancouver and Tribe 12. More information is in the chat on how to learn more about Avodah and your own private business. Thank you to our partner organization, Tribe 12. You can also follow us on our social media. Tomorrow is our final day of Hanukkah Hotties, but here's this. We've got a double bill for you. Starting off with our Shamash candle. We have my friend David Studneberg, founding member of Keshet, Germany, and a curator at the Jewish Museum of Berlin. And then to conclude, Hanukkah Hotties with our final candle, candle 8, is Azra Silverstein, a queer Jewish tarot reader. And that will be at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time and 8:30 Eastern time. And that will be all for Hanukkah Hotties. Thank you for joining us. Happy Hanukkah and Chag Hanukkah Sameach. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you. Hanukkah Sameach, you all.
Bye.
Bye.